Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. This is the Crypto Minute. My name is Russell Shaw, Senior Market Specialist at FXCM. Today is Wednesday, the 1st of June, 2022. Please take note of my email address, rshaw@fxcm.com, and obviously any emails, any questions, just use that email. I'll respond as soon as I'm able. I'm just going to bring up a high-risk investment warning here. I'll keep this on screen for a few moments. Okay, cool, Anna. All right, good. All right, and let's bring up our market commentaries disclaimer. I'm going to keep this on screen for a few moments. Now, this is it's a follow-on. It's a follow-on from the previous webinar we just had. What's the previous webinar? Well, the question we're asking is the dollar starting to move? And I think everybody sort of understands my methodology. We'll go over it in a moment, but I think dollar movement is very important when it comes to cryptocurrencies because they're priced in dollars. And we'll generally look at the Bitcoin because we'll use that as a proxy, but you can perhaps take a look at Ethereum as well. And here's our references, TradingView Market Scope. And let's just go ahead and bring this up. There's my. All right. Interestingly, dollar seems to be sort of rolling over here. Let's go through to the Bitcoin chart. I'd like to do this again as a top-down analysis, just to get an idea of what the primary trend is. Once we get an idea of primary trend, okay, we can start making our inferences based on that, based on sort of our short-term volatility. And over here, I've put in my peaks and troughs. We're on a weekly chart, so we're quite far. Excuse me, we're quite far out, right? This is bird's eye view. Peak, trough, lower peak, lower trough. There is some blue for this week. Okay, and we're trading at 31,545. Right. So that's where we stand right now. Again, I want to keep an eye on stochastic. Does stochastic stay where it is? This is a weekly chart, so it's not going to move all that quickly. But if it stays in this 20 area and we've got this lower peak, lower trough, it's not a great place for Bitcoin to be. It's effectively telling us that the momentum on the downtrend is still very much alive. Okay, so contrast that with US dollar. Okay, contrast that with US dollar. US dollar, okay, we've got an uptrend. Trough, peak, higher trough, higher peak, higher trough, higher peak, higher trough, question mark. I think we will get that. I think it's very unlikely we don't get a higher trough. What the next question is for the dollar then is, okay, do we get a lower peak or a higher peak? Because if we get the lower peak, then it's setting itself up for dollar weakness. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. My impression is quantitative tightening starts. When does quantitative tightening start? Starts today. Starts today. Okay. I think it's a million in treasuries, and I think it's a billion in treasuries, I beg your pardon, and 500 million in mortgage-backed securities now every day. All right. So we've got this strong dollar and we've got this weak crypto. And I think that's the backbone of the crypto market at the moment. And the reason why I say it like that is because of the way the ticker. Just take a look at the Bitcoin is your base currency, which is always going to be 1. Base currency is always 1. So we're just taking a look at this in terms of currency convention. Bitcoin is 1. US dollar is your quote currency. Okay. So Bitcoin is a numerator US dollar is the denominator, okay, if we get a price moving up like that, so let's just go back. So here, if I had to ask you, who's getting stronger here? Is it the numerator or is it the denominator? Without a doubt, its numerator is getting stronger relative to denominator. That's why we're getting this uptrend. That's what a base currency of, the base currency is always going to be 1, but at a 1, you're getting more for that 1 in terms of the quote. I hope I'm making that clear. Just to kind of drive the point home, I don't have Euro US dollar here, but kind of we know Euro US dollar is like kind of like this. So the question is, what's getting stronger and weaker here? The euro is the Euro US dollar. Euro is the numerator. If it's moving down, well, the euro is weakening relative to the base. What's the base? It's the US dollar. So that's mathematics, right? Any sort of fraction, any ratio. Well, this is this is a ratio. This is a fraction. Bitcoin to the US dollar. Okay, 1 Bitcoin to the US dollar. But, okay, but what's the big but? Is the US dollar going to be increasing, or is it going to decrease? That's a massive question when we start looking at Bitcoin, because it certainly hasn't kept its value. We can't say that it's a store of value. Anybody that bought over here, okay, well, they've lost a lot of capital. There's no store of value there, right? So then the obvious thing is, well, okay, fine. So it's not a store of value. Let's treat it like a currency pair. Let's treat it like a currency pair. Well, it's very difficult to get any fundamental information for Bitcoin as a currency. Very difficult to get in, but it's very easy to get information for the US dollar as a currency. Very easy. It's the easiest instrument to get information for. So we've just seen US 10-year starting to look like it's appreciated. We've just seen stagflationary pressures starting to appreciate. We've just started quantitative tightening. Okay. Now all of that is happening. All of that is happening when Bitcoin is in a downtrend. Lower peak, lower trough. Lower peak, lower trough. Okay. All of that is happening. All of that is happening when the stochastic is in its lower quintile. All of that's happening when the momentum is pressured to the downside. That's the environment we are in. Okay, let's carry on. Next chart. Next chart. Okay. Now, this is a very, very difficult chart for me to read again, because I thought it was breaking down to the downside. It didn't. It actually came from zone 3 into zone 2. So it moved from weakness into neutral, relative basis. That's a sign of strength. What's interesting here is the momentum now is starting to come down. Momentum starting to come down. So we've had a stabilization period. So that's why the Bollinger's are starting to contract, because we've stabilized. So we want to just watch the Bollinger's, because if they expand, we want to see, I think we want to keep an eye on a couple of things here. The expansion, is that accompanied with a movement into zone 1? If it's accompanied with a movement into zone 1, what's happening to the dollar? Because if the dollar is in zone 1 as well, something's off there, something's going to give. Either Bitcoin's going to give or the US dollar is going to give. How do I know that? It comes down to simple mathematics. We're looking at a ratio here. Okay, so we've got to see how the Bitcoin over the US dollar plays out. We're getting to a point now where the US dollar, so 2 weeks of pullback, okay, and it looks like it's finding support. What's the Bitcoin done over 2 weeks? Not much. Kind of you stopped falling. well, it stopped falling. I would posit because the dollar started falling. Okay, it didn't stabilize because of the numerator side. It stabilized because of the denominator side. Okay, so now that in itself is an important point to make, because if we have to take a look, say, at the risk markets, let's just bring up DAX. You can look. We should look at the US 30 as well, but I don't have it. Okay, over the last 2 weeks, the risk markets over here have been stellar performers. Huge blue candle last week. Why didn't Bitcoin catch a bid last week? What was the impediment for Bitcoin, which is considered a risk asset, not catching the bid with the rest of the risk markets? Okay, looks like it's coming in late, right? All right. So if that's the case, the question is, do we have a movement into zone 1? That's question number 1. If we don't have a movement into zone 1, are we going to come back into zone 3? And if we come back into zone 3, well, this makes this bounce here extremely suspicious. Extremely suspicious. Which brings us now to the hourly chart. And we go to the hourly chart. Where's the resistance above us? Where's the resistance above us? Let's go and take a look at this. Let's just try to get this in as. Okay, so we've got a lot of price resistance there. We've got a lot of price resistance there. We've got a lot of price resistance there. Where are we trading? Well, we're trading in the resistance. Okay, we're trading in the resistance just as US 10-year is starting to break out of a potential falling wedge. Okay, how's Bitcoin reacting? It's not reacting particularly well. Okay, it's crossed over negative. We've got the stochastic falling. And not only is it falling, it's heading towards the lower quintile. All right, so this is a very fragile position for Bitcoin to be in. Now, I cannot say for certain, nobody can say for certain that we're going to get a downswing here. I don't know if we're going to get a downswing here, but I can say if we hit 20 and hold, that's trouble. I can say if that the EMAs don't cross back over, that's trouble. In fact, if the EMAs develop angle and separation to the downside, that's trouble. Okay, so what we got to do is we've got to keep an eye on a few things here. We saw US dollar starting to roll. Okay, is it rolling? And since we looked at it last, looks like it's got a bit of a bid coming back in. Okay, we saw earlier in the DAX webinar, US 10-year starting to move. We've heard Waller 2 days ago in Frankfurt being exceptionally hawkish. We've seen price pressures now starting to exacerbate. So trouble, yeah, to the downside. Yeah, exactly. So the fundamentals here are, to me, supportive of greenback. Does it mean greenback is going to move up 100%? No, I don't say that at all. It depends on whether the momentum holds. But if that momentum holds, it's going to exert pressure on our Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, if it goes to the lower quintile, well, then the downward pressure is on. So it's looking fragile. Okay, it's looking fragile. And now we want to see, can it move into zone 1? Okay, because that's the next logical step if you're a bull. If it falls back into zone 3, then the rally here was viewed as suspicious, targeted by the shorts. So that's the sort of the outline of the way I'm looking at it. I want to just end off by saying, remember, I acknowledge I'm getting sort of confusing signals with the dollar. You know, I just want to keep on top of that. Is that US 10-year a head and shoulders top, or is it a falling wedge breakout? And I think as that plays out, I'll have to deal with either the cognitive dissonance or the cognitive dissonance goes away. But the idea here is, if that dollar has found support, if it moves up, it's going to pressure Bitcoin to the downside. We'll just have a quick look at Ethereum as well. All right, Ethereum is much weaker than Bitcoin. You can see it's it hasn't got nearly the relative strength that Bitcoin has. You can see the breakout of this. Let's call it a wedge, but let's put this here. Let's put this here. Let's put this here, and let's just change this to a lower trough. So Ethereum's resolved itself to into a downtrend. Take a look how weak the momentum is here. This is really not it's not this daily chart's not nearly as strong as the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's looking tentative now because it's run headlong into key resistance. The question is, does it have the legs to overcome that key resistance? And if we take a look at the Ethereum chart, it's kind of moving towards this lower quintile. What's interesting is it's found some sort of support at S1. So the question is now, does S1 support, or does it give? Okay, so you can see it's a very, very tricky market at the moment. All right, any questions there? Please go ahead and type those through. Any questions, please go ahead, type those through. All right, I think I'm flummoxed by that. Is that a tip for a horse race? All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up here. Have a very, very good day, a really good evening, and we'll catch up tomorrow nice and early. Cheers, guys.